Hi, everyone, and welcome to another weekend workshop. My name is Carrie Ramsey, and I am the project manager for the Weekend Project, which is led by Queen's University. And today we are looking at learning about crowdfund your business with Zulany, and I'm so excited to welcome her to the Weekend community of women entrepreneurs. For those of you who don't know, the Weekend Project is actually funded by FedDev Ontario through the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund. And we're one of about 50 different projects across Canada that are right now supporting women entrepreneurs in their ventures. And since the pandemic started last March, we have pivoted to offering a lot of these virtual workshops, which I don't know about you, but I have just absorbed so much wisdom and enjoyed the stories, the sharing, the networking that has come through these sessions. So I hope that you've been enjoying them as much as I have. We would love to find out today, as we always like to do, where you're connecting from. So please just take a moment in the Zoom chat to let us know what region you're from or city. I know even if you've shared it 1,000 times, please let us know your business name and your website. And the reason is, of course, that we always have different people who are attending different workshops. So we hope that you will take a moment to do that. It just makes the room a little bit more friendly, and we can put faces to names and to businesses. So thanks for taking a moment to do that. While you do, I would love to acknowledge that I'm connecting to this workshop from the Bay of Quinte region, which is just outside the Kingston region. And this is the traditional territory of the Huron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And I'd love to do a land acknowledgement at the beginning of our weekend workshops. And I was thinking today about how I could personalize this workshop. And I always try to, think about that aspect of it, just making sure it's not just something that I'm reading off of a page, which is less meaningful. So I was thinking about the content of today's workshop, which is crowdfund your business. And I think, and Zulany will teach us more today, but my understanding of crowdfunding is at the heart of it is collaboration and community and cooperation, because it really comes down to people supporting people, people helping people. And when we think about the Indigenous peoples and how they began in Canada, or perhaps in your part of the world, it was definitely a matter of people helping people. And when you think about the cold winters in Canada, survival depends on people helping people. And even when we look back to the last few months of the pandemic, I don't know about you, but I've gotten through it by people helping people. So I think that there is sort of that through line that comes from the Indigenous cultures as well, even to today, what we're talking about. So I hope that that gives you something to think about as we're also going through this workshop. I do want to mention, if you haven't already noticed, we do have an ASL interpreter with us today. Q Lethbridge is probably appearing in your gallery view for one of our cherished clients, Leah. And if you also would like to follow the ASL interpreter, please do take a moment to pin her to the top of your screen. You can do that by clicking on hovering over her photo, and then clicking on the 3 little buttons that are in the top right corner of her screen. And that way you can pin her to the top of your screen and follow her. So I invite you to do that. Because we have Q joining us, she is going to take a much needed break at 10:50. That means we will be pausing our workshop to give her a 10-minute break for those busy hands and expressions. And we will allow you to go and grab a coffee, take a quick bio break. By all means, though, please do come back at 11 so that we do not miss the Q&A, because we know that once Zulany presents the information, the real answers that you're looking for will probably come out in the Q&A. So please definitely do come back after the break. But just a reminder, we will take a 10-minute break at 10:50. And so do just remember that. So thank you for those of you who have been sharing in the Zoom chat. If you're just joining us, please do take a moment to let us know in the Zoom chat where you're connecting from and what your business is. Or if you're in the ideation stage or that early stage, you can let us know that too, that you're just thinking about starting a business. And if you are starting a business, this is a great topic for you today, I believe. So Zulany, I'm not going to take any more of your time. We're so curious and interested to learn about crowdfund your business. One last thing I should mention is originally we were to have Monica Miller join us from the Kingston Forest and Nature School. I hope I said that one right. Unfortunately, because she is now in charge of her children's homeschooling, she isn't able to make it, but I will be sharing a link to the crowdfunding campaign that helped her raise, I believe it was over $20,000 to purchase a yurt for her forest school. So, you know, I'll just mention that unfortunately she was not able to attend to present and share today, but Zulany will be covering all the different types of crowdfunding platforms. And if you have questions, we will certainly answer them either today or find out for you. So without further ado, Zulany, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, all. And thank you, Carrie, and the Weekend team for having me. I am very excited to be discussing today how to help you crowdfund your business. It's a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. It's what I do on a day-to-day basis, helping companies grow through the support of their community. So I'm pretty excited. I just wanted to give a little disclaimer, although most of my presentation will be focusing around equity crowdfunding, which is one of the main types of crowdfunding. Most of this presentation is applicable to all the other types of crowdfunding, especially towards the end, because it's a marketing portion and all crowdfunding campaigns need marketing. That's the core of them. Also, if you have any questions and perhaps you would like me to expand on something that was a little bit unclear, let me know in the chat box. I will be asking Carrie to be reading if you have any questions about my slides. And then if you have any extra questions, you can also be putting them there and I will be addressing them at the end in the Q&A section. Okay, so before we start, I just wanted to give a brief intro of who I am. My name is Zulany Pacheco. I lead all digital marketing efforts at Equivesto. And Equivesto is an equity crowdfunding platform. We have been helping startups grow with the help of their communities since our launch, which was back in September of 2020. And I've had a blast helping startups craft their message so that they resonate with the crowdfunding campaign. And so I am very excited to tell you how this whole process works, as well as the main types of crowdfunding. So here is what we will cover today. First, we will go over the types of crowdfunding. Then we're going to be moving on to how equity crowdfunding works. We are going to be talking about what is an exempt market dealer, the capital life cycle, who can participate in equity crowdfunding, the benefits of equity crowdfunding, what companies offer investors in equity crowdfunding, the ongoing requirements for companies, preparing for a crowdfunding round, and how to have a successful campaign. You will see that towards the middle, most of the titles are exclusive to equity crowdfunding, but towards the end, like I said, that's applicable to all types of crowdfunding. Okay, so here are the main types of crowdfunding in Canada. They are currently donation-based crowdfunding, rewards-based crowdfunding, and equity crowdfunding. As the name surmises, in donation-based crowdfunding, the crowd is making a donation to an organization, a cause, usually a not-for-profit, and they are gaining nothing more than the satisfaction of knowing that they're helping a cause that they believe in. In rewards-based crowdfunding, the crowd is giving support, they are backing a person, a company, a cause, in return for a product or a service. So they are getting something usually tangible. And then with equity crowdfunding, people are investing in a company in return for shares in their business. I have this little diagram to help visualize things better. So equity crowdfunding, people are putting an investment. They are contributing. That is the contribution. It's an investment. They get shares in their business. And some of the popular portals is Crowdcube and Equivesto, because we are an equity crowdfunding platform. In donation-based, people make a donation. It's an intangible reward. It's the pure satisfaction of helping a cause. And a popular platform for that would be GoFundMe. And then for rewards-based, people can make a pre-purchase or a donation, and they have tangible rewards. And a popular example of that type of platform is Kickstarter, which, when people refer to crowdfunding, they're usually referring to rewards-based crowdfunding, the type of crowdfunding that Kickstarter does. So here is how equity crowdfunding works. It has two components. The first one is companies who are looking to raise capital and issue equity convertible notes. And the second component are the investors, who are large groups of smaller investors who participate by investing micro amounts. Actually, investors with equity crowdfunding can invest as little as $100. A very important component of equity crowdfunding platforms is that you have to be an exempt market dealer in order to operate an equity crowdfunding platform. Otherwise, it would be an illegal platform. So if you're considering in going the equity crowdfunding route, it's very important that you make sure that you're working with a licensed exempt market dealer. Equivesto is licensed as an exempt market dealer under applicable securities legislations in Ontario, Alberta, British Columbia, and Nova Scotia. And what an exempt market dealer is, or an EMD for short, is that they are fully registered securities dealers who engage in business of trading in prospectus exempt securities or any securities to qualified exempt market clients. Amongst their two main roles is one, to protect and support both companies raising capital and investors. And they also act as a third party to help facilitate investment transactions. If you're ever in doubt about whether or not the platform that you're working with is an exempt market dealer, and perhaps you feel too shy to ask, you can always go to aretheyregistered.ca and search for their license there. This is also a place where you can find Equivesto's license. So who can participate in equity crowdfunding? So in terms of investors, it can be anyone living in Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, and Nova Scotia for Equivesto, because that's the provinces that we currently operate in. People also need to be above the age of 18. They must understand the risk of this high-risk investment, and they must be confirmed suitable by our compliance team. In terms of maximum investment per company, for people or investors who are not accredited, we call them retail investors, the maximum investment per company is $2,500. And then for eligible investor, that maximum investment per company increases to $5,000. And then for accredited investors, which typically are seasoned investors who tend to be wealthy individuals. They do not have any limits on how much they can invest in your company. And then for companies, you only need to be operating in Canada. You must be looking to raise $25,000 or more, from $25,000 to $1.5 million. You must also have more than an idea, and by that, I mean that you must have either a minimum viable product, a product demo, something to show, or a proven track record of success if you're already operating. You must also be confirmed suitable by our compliance team, because we need to verify who you say you are, and run due diligence on the main members of your team. And lastly, you must also have a loyal and supportive community, or must be making an impact in your community. It's equity crowdfunding. So I have outlined here a few points that can help you decide whether equity crowdfunding is or isn't for you. So on the left, we have examples of companies that work well. The first example is it's a company with a strong community focus, such as restaurants, local shops, or a community center. Another example of a company that would work well is an exciting new idea that captures the imagination. So, for example, a company that has a new technology that is reducing pollution. Or you could be a company with a strong positive impact either locally or globally. Now, in terms of companies that don't work as well, the first example I have here is companies where the value of the business is tied to a small number of employees. So, for example, if that employee leaves, the company is less valuable. Examples of these types of companies are consulting companies and freelance business. Also, a company that may not work as well is a highly technical B2B business. It can be challenging depending on the industry. I just want to briefly pause here to see if I'm making myself clear, or if there's any questions so far about anything I've said.
I'll just pop in, Zulany. I'm hearing a bit of feedback. I'm not sure if your microphone is on your lapel, maybe. But yeah, just there was a little bit of feedback. Maybe I'm the only one hearing it, but it seems to be happening a few times. Anyone have any questions you want to put into the Zoom chat, or well, that might be best if it's in the Zoom chat. Can you give us some examples of some example successful businesses that would be an equity crowdfunding fit, Zulany?
Sure. Restaurants, they tend to do well because you have a local supportive community. Chances are that you have been there for a while. You know the people around that city. So those work well, as well as if you have like an innovative technology.
So let me do a follow-up question. You mentioned the restaurants, and Suzanne is asking, do you mean like a franchise restaurant, or are you talking about a local family-owned style?
Yeah. So local family, restaurant.
And do you want to expand on that? Because I know this ties to the marketing and the community, but do you want to expand why that would be ideal for a family-owned business versus a franchise?
Yes. Franchise, basically, you perhaps will not have that connected community as a family business restaurant, where you've probably been there for a while, for like various generations perhaps. So you already know the people, they can already relate, they already come to your restaurant, they know who you are, they know you on a human level. Whereas in a franchise, perhaps it will be a little bit harder. Perhaps you will not have the same reception. Um, I don't mean to say that it wouldn't work. It's just, I think that the family-owned business works better because you have that connection to your clients and your community.
Which becomes really important when it comes to the marketing piece of it, for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Lorena asked a question, and you might have already touched on this. Could you just restate this equity crowdfunding? It's really for businesses that are already in the marketplace, correct? Or could they be for a business that it's about to open?
Yes, it can be for both businesses who are already operating and businesses who are not yet operating. So that's why it's important that if you're not operating, that you have a minimum viable product, some sort of example of how the company will run and what you're doing, so that people can see it and understand it a little bit better.
Hmm. And I think that we'll probably get into some examples of that shortly as well. But Ariane is asking, if you're new in the city or the area and you want to start a restaurant, is it a good idea to use crowdfunding to raise money to open?
That's a great question. So I would say that if it's a yes, but just to expand on that, you just need to be able to um, gather, build your community and activate that. So it will all depend on you activating your community and being able to draw attention to what you want to build.
And you'd mentioned earlier about exciting new ideas. So I'm thinking if there's a neighborhood with no sushi restaurant, and you can tap into enough people in that community that are excited about, yes, having a sushi restaurant in their neighborhood, then they could potentially, even though you're new to that area, they could potentially get behind that idea and say, yes, let's bring sushi to our neighborhood. It's an example. It must be almost
Yeah.
lunchtime or something.
Yeah. We actually, in Equivesto, we have a company that is currently raising, and it's called Cordelia's Locket. It's a women-led business, and they're planning to open a wine bar and deli in BC. So they're not yet operating. So it's a fantastic example of this.
Very good. Any other questions before we move on to the next segment? Is everyone clear, hopefully, on equity crowdfunding, or any other questions about what that means before we move on? While they're thinking, I will ask a quick question. You mentioned risks earlier, Zulany, and every time I think most women entrepreneurs that I know, every time they hear that, they're like, oh, I don't want to go high risk. What were the risks you were talking about? I think you had mentioned something like be aware of the risks. Could you maybe expand on that?
Absolutely. So with this or any type of investments, they are high risk because, especially because startups are volatile. So, they can fail. So basically what I just meant was that this is a fit for for an investor who is willing to lose what they put in. So don't expect, it's not a promise that you're going to grow your money. Although most times, that's what happens, but you have to be willing to lose the amount of money that you put in, or else this isn't for you. For example, if you only have $100 to your name, it would be a terrible idea, and you wouldn't be, unfortunately, a fit for our portal.
So it's more on the risk on the side of the investors, not so much on the business.
No, exactly.
Okay,
it's on the
gotcha.
side of the investors.
And a final question before we continue, Zulany. What is the difference between equity crowdfunding and venture capitalists, like angel investors?
Yes. So venture capitalists and angel investors, they are accredited investors. With equity crowdfunding, many more people can participate because the power is given to the crowd. So people that the everyday Canadian, basically. Whereas in venture capital, it's tends to be a few people, often wealthy, often a certain race, um, who are making the decisions of whether you flourish or not. So with equity crowdfunding, you're giving that, you're saying the crowd decides.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
All right, so we can move on, but please do continue to put your questions in the chat. We'd love to see them.
Yeah, love the questions, love the questions. So capital life cycle. Yeah, I briefly touched on this, but in terms of where equity crowdfunding fits in the capital life cycle, so the stages of funding, it sits right between the family and friends round and the angel investors round. So with family and friends, you're often looking to raise $100,000 or less. With equity crowdfunding, you're looking to raise between 25 to 1.5 million. And then when you move on to angel investors, you're perhaps looking for $400,000 to 3 million. With venture capital, you're looking to raise between 2 million to 200 million dollars. And then when you go IPO, or you go public, basically you're looking to raise 2,000. Wow, that's a big number.
200 million.
$200 million. Like my mind can't even process that. That's a lot of money. So yeah, that's also part of the difference between venture capital and equity crowdfunding, that perhaps you're looking to raise a bit more as well. So it all depends on what your business needs are and the purpose of your raise. And that will help you decide which route you want to go in. So a few benefits of equity crowdfunding. So the first one and most exciting is that the access to capital. So you don't need to rely on bank loans if that's not your preferred route. And the both accredited and non-accredited investors believe in your business and now give back to it, can be part of your growth, which is super exciting. You're also gaining dedicated investors. So more than capital, companies gain loyal investors who want to see them win and who will be open to providing valuable feedback. Because since they already contributed, they feel the need to see you succeed. So it's great to have that. And then you're also gaining brand exposure. In a digital era, it's super important. That's how we're marketing today. So a digital campaign makes it easier for investors to spread the word, share it on their social medias, to their networks, and this results in more people knowing about your brand. So in a way, your investors become your brand ambassadors because they want to see you win. And so they will be sharing everything you post or information about you so that their networks tap into yours. And lastly, proof of concept. A successful campaign gives your company enough market validation and credibility to move on to the next funding stage. So it's a great market validation. So what do companies who are raising an equity crowdfunding round offer to investors? Companies can choose the type of shares that they issue to the public. If a company is not sure what type of shares, what percentage, don't worry, we help you figure that out. Companies also give direct partial ownership in the form of shares. And companies often offer non-voting common shares in Equivesto. That just means that not every shareholder has a voting right. You don't need to, do a little poll every time you have to make a decision. So it's just for that, because they're smaller investors. So you can just offer non-voting common shares for them. In terms of ongoing requirements that you as a company need to do, it's first host an annual shareholders meeting, just to keep them updated and what the company has been up to. How have you used the funds? And second, you must update the securities regulators when raising capital in the future, or if you're undergoing a large change in your business operations. So it's pretty standard. If you already have shareholders, chances are you're probably already doing this. So how to get started? This is applicable to all types of crowdfunding. There are many things that you need to do before you even apply to a crowdfunding platform. And I recommend that you do so because you will need, there is a fee associated typically with an application. So before you apply, you have to really be thinking or have already thought about everything that you will need throughout your campaign. So in a way, this is where the real work begins. The first thing that you have to prepare is the documents. These documents will vary because you will need more documents for equity crowdfunding than you will need for, let's say, Kickstarter. And I will be touching a bit more on which documents I'm talking about in a bit. You also must be thinking about how you want to present and frame your business so that people, potential investors, feel like they should care about what your business is doing. So create a clear plan, create clear goals with clear strategies and the timeline on when you will be executing those. And third, and most important, you must build or grow your community, especially online. Without your community, it's going to be very hard to have a successful raise. So if you don't yet have a community, then I would suggest that you start building one at least 3 months before you even apply to a crowdfunding platform. And fourth, just review the documents that each crowdfunding platform will need from you. And then now that you have all of these things ready, then you can apply. In terms of the documents to have ready for equity crowdfunding, this is specifically for equity crowdfunding in Canada. First, you will need the certificate of incorporation. You will need a cap table, the organizational chart, the business plan, the pitch deck, the financial statements, the shareholders' agreements, your financial projections of 5 years, and the purpose and raise of the amount. And these are all documents that will be visible in your campaign page for your potential issuers, for your potential investors to see if they want to invest, if it makes sense for them to invest in you. So they will go over all of these and make a decision if they want to back your company. We have also outlined in our Equivesto FAQ page why we need each of these documents. So let me know if you want me to drop the link on the FAQ page later.
So Zulany, I'm hearing a question, which is, so you do need to be incorporated before you would pursue equity crowdfunding, correct?
Yes, incorporated, yes, operating, no.
Okay, yeah. So some of the other crowdfunding opportunities that we'll even chat about, and you've mentioned Kickstarter or other ones, don't require a company to be incorporated. But I
Correct.
think that's an important distinction, that for equity crowdfunding, your investors are going to want to see that you're incorporated.
Absolutely. Hey, so this part is also applicable from here on. Everything is applicable to all and every type of crowdfunding out there. I like to think about the marketing for a crowdfunding campaign as three phases, kind of like a funnel. The phase one is your tight community. You market to your tight community. Then you move on to phase two, where you're marketing to your broader community. So it's just people a little bit outside of your tight community. And then the phase three is when you start marketing to your extended community. And I will be explaining this in a little bit more detail. The phase one is marketing to your tight community, as I mentioned. In this phase, you must reach out to the most connected members of your community. These individuals should know the most about your business and what you're doing, so they must be the most excited to invest in it. You must make sure that your tight community is able to invest the first 10% of your raise goal. I think this is a fair statement for all crowdfunding campaigns. Um, in Equivesto, this is sort of our rule. If when you hit those first 10%, then we open your deal to the public. But before those 10% are hit, you will need to communicate to your tight community that your campaign is running. And so you will invite them first to invest in your company. So be ready before you do any crowdfunding campaign to activate your tight community so that you can raise at least the first 10% of your goal with that community. You can do that by first asking around if they would be even interested in investing. So a little bit of a market research with your own community. Once your campaign reaches the first 10% of your goal, Equivesto opens your deal to the public. In this second phase, you move on to marketing to a broader community. These community members could be your social media followers, or your LinkedIn or Facebook friends, or the investors on the Equivesto portal. You can start posting on social media about all the milestones that your campaign achieves. So by this time, you already have a nice milestone that you have reached 10% of your goal raise. So you can update them on that. And it's a great way to make them feel excited. The third phase is when you begin to reach out to your extended community. So these are people who just learned about your campaign. Perhaps you reach them through paid ads, or by collaborating with other businesses in social media, or by collaborating with influencers on social media, if that is something that makes sense for your brand. So your tight community will demonstrate traction, and without them, you will not experience the strong start that your campaign needs to succeed. If your broader and extended community see that your tight community isn't investing, then they will feel like, why should I invest in this campaign? So your broader and extended community of investors will often not participate in your deal unless you're able to show that there are other investors who are already interested in your campaign. It's it's just human, I guess, validation, confirmation. That there needs to be some of that so that people actually outside of your community feel like, okay, this deal is good for me. So just to clarify, there are three phases, and in the first phase, it's your tight community. The second phase is your broader community, and the third phase is your extended community. Without you having reached that 10% with your tight community, then it's going to be harder to reach a successful campaign with your broader and extended community, basically. So this is a top tip for all companies who raise on our platform, or for any companies who is planning to run a crowdfunding campaign, and that is to invite your community to join a private group. This is something that has been working really well with companies who are raising on Equivesto. And the private group is just a group that can help your community feel a bit more connected to your business. And this private group can be a Facebook private group or an email list. That also works very well. I feel that email lists are a really good idea in terms of creating this private group, because when people are reading their emails, they're going through their emails, they usually have a different mindset. They're perhaps a little bit more focused than if they were on their phones or on the computer, or just on social media. So I would suggest to create this private email list. And the goal of this private group is to have a place where you can actively ask people to sign up to the crowdfunding portal that your company is raising capital in, so that they can invest as soon as you launch your campaign, and provide them all the information that they need to know in order to make an educated decision, basically. So by joining this private group, individuals are confirming their interests and intentions in learning more about your company and what your business is up to, and then they can become a more engaged community member. So you as a founder will provide weekly updates and exciting information about your business to activate them and to let them know why they should be caring about your business and what you're doing. So once you launch your campaign, you will notify this private group, either your email list or your private Facebook group, and give them early access to your crowdfunding campaign. Remember that early traction is absolutely crucial to the success of your campaign. So it is very important that you basically hype this private group. If you don't yet have a community, that's okay. You can always build it by perhaps running giveaways, running paid advertisements, running an influencer marketing campaign, or just doing other personal sort of outreach to attract more individuals towards your business. And then once people start to engage with your social media posts and your online profiles, then you can invite them to join this private group. And then from there, you will begin notifying them that you will have a campaign, a crowdfunding campaign, so that they can start knowing a bit more about what that is and what that entails and what they get. And well, you will just ask them to sign up to the crowdfunding portal so that when you launch, they are ready to invest. So this being said, the private group, the creation of this private group and the nurturing of this private group needs to happen before your campaign starts, because you will have a lot of work when your campaign starts. And your campaign, if you're choosing equity crowdfunding, can be up to 90 days. So in 90 days, it's a really short time for you to start building or activating your community.
Can I just pop in with a question, Zulany, since
For sure.
we have 4 minutes left till our break for the ASL interpreter. So I'll throw this question in that was in the chat. Leah is asking, would this approach work if you started a project and you need more investment to grow? So a taste of what's to come, for instance. So rather than a brand new business, maybe the project exists, and Leah in the chat, correct me if I'm not stating this correctly, but the project exists and you need more investment to grow.
Correct. Yes, that is also a fantastic, well, depending on what your business does, and if you already have that community, then for sure. If this raise will be a stepping stone for you to grow, that's something that you will state in your campaign page and say, this is why we need this amount of money. And then, it's going to be easier for you because chances are you already have a community of loyal supporters.
And I find that for businesses that want to take something to the next level, which Leah's talking about, I think here, it's again, goes back to that excitement. You still need to excite your community and your audience. And would you say there still has to be something in it for them? Like, it's not just, hey, everyone, help me take my business, make it bigger so I can make more money. It's not that. It's about the impact that up leveling will allow you to have in your community. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that messaging is really important, I think.
Yeah. You have to hone the message in a way that resonates. The story is often there for every company. It's just about how to correctly frame it in a way that it's exactly what your investors want to hear.
That's so true. And I love the private group idea. Can I just say, and is it okay if we do take our break just about now, Zulany, since I see you've almost paused? And are there any, I don't want to open up the floor to questions. We might get a lot more, but one quick one here though. Is there a restaurant in Canada that started through your crowdfund? So I think they're looking for a specific example.
So because we started operating in September, no, there hasn't. However, we currently have Cordelia's Locket, which is currently us, and that's what they're planning to do with what they raise. They're going to build this amazing wine bar, deli, and pantry.
So exciting. Can people go to the website and see what other campaigns would have started?
Absolutely. Equivesto.com/opportunities.
Okay. So during the break, Zulany, if you could put that link in there.
Absolutely.
And then Lorena had just said, because there was a bit of feedback, if you could put the name of that company, she didn't quite get it.
Oh, Cordelia's Locket.
Oh, Cordelia, like a locket, like a necklace. So maybe just write that one as well. So everyone, we are going to take 10 minutes. If you're joining us and you weren't there earlier, we do have an ASL interpreter who needs to rest her hands and her face for 10 minutes. However, I know the inauguration is starting shortly and many of you might want to run over to your TV, but do not miss the last half hour of this workshop because it's the chance for you to, first of all, learn a bit more, but also to ask your direct questions. And so be thinking about those over the break and come back at 11. We will start then. And thank you to Q for her wonderful service so far. We look forward to the second part. Thanks, everyone. You can put yourselves on mute and video free if you'd like. Go grab a coffee. And we will see you at 11 o'clock. We'll start back up. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, awesome. Just to clarify, I briefly looked over Kickstarter's requirements, and while you don't have to be incorporated, you do need to be registered. You have to have a registered business. So key marketing components. These are suggestions besides the creation of this private group. And the first and most important one is pitch video. You must create a pitch video before your campaign starts. And that is going to be added to your campaign page so that potential investors can relate to a face, can connect to a face, a human face. Usually we recommend that the founder is the one presenting this video, but it can also be a key member of your team. And this pitch video is usually between 2 to 5 minutes of length. You must also be thinking about doing social media outreach. So create your online profiles if you haven't already. And the online profiles that you create need to make sense for your business in terms of where your potential investors are, where your potential clients are. You also need to be thinking about how you will measure your results of all your efforts. So think about which analytics tools you're going to be using. The most popular one being Google Analytics. So you can install that on your website so that you know exactly how things are panning out for you. Also, paid ads is a great strategy. If you are able to do so, I highly encourage you to do so before and after and during the campaign. I say before the campaign because you will need to know what images work best for your brand, what language works best for your brand, what voice, what tone. So all these tests should have happened before your campaign starts so that when it starts, you already know what image, what color combination, what call to action, what description do people like to see, what do they resonate with the best. And on that note, if you plan to run Facebook ads specifically, you must install the Facebook Pixel so that you're tracking all data from your Facebook ads, and you can attribute it to your landing page. If it makes sense for your business, you could also be thinking about running contests or giveaways in order to increase the eyes on your campaign. And also on that note, influencer marketing is pretty popular now. And if it makes sense to you, again, then it's something I would encourage you to do it. Typically, you don't need to be working with big influencers to gain new potential investors. You can work with micro influencers who actually have a higher engagement rate than the bigger influencers. And that's perhaps the route that you can take. Just make sure that the influencer that you're trying to connect with is interested in what you're doing, because it wouldn't make sense for your company to be doing something that they wouldn't really back there, because their followers will know that that's not how they are and what they are into. So, if you're a financial business, then you can also be looking for a financial influencer. Also, if you are a local shop, you can be thinking about doing in-store marketing. Of course, this looks a bit different nowadays. You can't probably hand out flyers and brochures and all that, but you could put a simple banner on the outside of your store to let people who are walking by to know that you're raising a crowdfunding campaign. Also, hosting events, it's a great way to activate potential investors. We are running companies who are raising on Equivesto as they do it weekly almost. Some of them do it bi-weekly. And then they also incorporate webinars with Instagram lives so that, that human connection is there. Well, as much of a human connection that as we can. And then if you have the time and availability, you can also create different email lists for potential investors at different stages. So one list can be for those who signed up to the crowdfunding portal but haven't yet invested in your crowdfunding campaign. And then another list is for clients who you would like to turn into potential investors. So different nurture lists for different investors at different stages. It's good to segment them. And lastly, to learn more about the company side of things, I would suggest that you visit equivesto.com/company. And if you're up for the challenge, we have an equity crowdfunding bootcamp, which has 7 modules. And then you will test your knowledge at the end in a short 5-minute quiz. It's really fun. It will only take you about 20 minutes overall. You can also reach me directly at zulany.pacheco@equivesto.com if you have any marketing related questions. But if you also have questions in general that are not related to marketing, you can reach us out at support@equivesto.com. And we are also available for a call. I believe tomorrow and Friday, and then a few days next week. So you can book a call with one of our dealing reps at calendly.com/equivesto. You can just book a 15-minute call right now if you'd like. Thank you so much for listening, and I like to address any questions that you have for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Zulany. I love that it's a big topic, but you've put it in such really clear steps. And so I appreciate that very much. A couple of questions that have come up. Madeline has asked, what is the main benefit, or could you restate the main benefit for people investing in your company? So what's in it for them? Why would they be enticed to do this?
Because they believe in what you're doing, because they care about what you're doing, because you're making something positive for your community. And that's the main benefit. Also, I have to add that there have been companies on our platform that have provided some perks, but I personally don't think that that's the first thing that will make investors go like, oh, that's why I should invest in this company. It will be because of they think that you as a founder can be able to achieve all the things that you have outlined in your business plan.
And what about financial returns? Is that a part of this? Is that the investors would hope to get money back, right?
Of course, they would hope so. But they have to be prepared to not see those returns in at least 5 years, because they must remember that you're still, building. It's a slow type of growth, but it's not immediate. Like they put in their money and then they get something back, unless the company issues dividends. That's a different story.
And there's another question about, does it take a specific amount of money to become an investor? I'm not sure if you touched on that. You might have.
Yeah. So no, I don't think I touched on that, but in order to be an investor, the platform is free for investors. So all you need to spend is $100 or more on your investment. So you don't get charged for something other than your investment.
So
basically.
the minimum investment is $100.
It's $100, that's
Okay.
correct.
Which is very low considering some of the other entry
Correct.
points. Yeah, this is for the everyday person who wants
Yeah,
to make a difference in their
absolutely.
neighborhood or their city. Very good. A question about the, oh, here, I'll ask this one from Susan. Realistically speaking, what percentage of your company should you be willing to part with?
What percentage of your company
Should you
should
be
be willing
willing to give to your investors, I guess? Is it that sort of a scenario where you're giving them shares? So up to what point would you suggest they do that? What percentage?
I think this is a great question. Unfortunately, I'm not a dealing rep, so I don't want to mislead you with my answer. So that's something that you can definitely discuss with our dealing rep on the Calendly call.
Great,
And
that's
they
a good
will
suggestion.
help you decide that. Regardless, when you start the application process, these are all things that you will discuss with our financials team, and they will give feedback on what they think you should be doing.
Very good. I did just put a link in there as well, folks, to Monica Miller's Kickstarter campaign that I had referred to. She was going to try to come today, but of course, because of the pandemic, she is now homeschooling her children and unfortunately couldn't come. But she did raise more than 20,000 on a different platform. But still, what Zulany is talking about today is very I mean, the strategies you've suggested work for all platforms, as you've mentioned, which is brilliant.
Right.
A question here from Alex. Is there a time limit on how fast we meet our financial investment goal on crowdfunding platforms?
Unless you have stated that in your campaign page, I guess that would be like an ethical thing to say, to give. If you're putting yourself a timeline to go and achieve those things, then you should be sticking to that. But there is no real time limit. Growth looks different for every company, so we don't set that.
I heard you say 90 days earlier. Is that like a typical campaign timing?
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. That's what you're referring to. Yes, totally. That is the maximum that your campaign can be live. So 90 days, between 30 and 90 days. Actually, yeah, like about, I wouldn't suggest going under 30 days because that would be pretty tight.
Gotcha. Okay. And also, it's, as you mentioned, it's a lot of work. I should mention my son had oh, actually, it's a kids platform because he's 16, and it's called Kid Everest, which is a crowdfunding platform for kid-owned businesses. They have to be under 18. I love it. Yours is over 18, but this one was
Yeah.
for youth. And so he raised 500 US. That was his goal in 30 days. But he didn't want to do it for more than 30 days because it takes a lot of time to be always, promoting. So that's the other thing to think about.
Yeah.
You don't want to do a crowdfunding campaign for a year because you'll burn out.
Yeah. I think that my suggestion, a good timing would be 45 days. So right in the middle.
Nice. What about the goal? Someone had asked in private what's a good goal to aim for? Like you had mentioned, it can be from, maybe you want to remind us of the minimum. Oh, it's 25,000. I think you said is the minimum.
25,000 to 1.5 million.
Right.
That will just depend on what you want to do, really.
And so when you were talking about you have to raise 10% with your tight community. So in that case, that would be 2,500. So I guess the question to say is, how much can I raise from my tight community?
Exactly.
Because otherwise this campaign isn't going to the next phase. So I think that's a way to put it as well. Like, great, we'd all love to raise $1 million, but are you going to raise 100,000 from your tight community before you go to phase 2? I guess is the realistic way to think about it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you could also, it's proportional. You can think of, for every 1,000 followers, maybe 10 of them will be joining my private group. And then you start doing the maths from there.
Yeah, I was just speaking with someone, I think she's on this call actually, last week about social media and this idea of how important it is to build that community, as you've said, Zulany, before you have an ask. Because if you don't want to just launch your new business on, let's say, February 1st to absolutely no followers, because that means you are absolutely not going to be selling to 0 people. So even before you launch your business, or in this case, your crowdfunding campaign, you need to, do you have because I know your background is marketing, how would you suggest, what are you putting in the content up to the point where you're asking for the money? Let's say you're in an early stage of your business. You haven't even really launched your business, but you want to grow that community, the following. What are you doing in there, in your social media, for instance?
Absolutely. You will be talking about your story, what motivated you to start this business, get them excited about what you're trying to accomplish. So I guess in a way, just tell your why. Why are you building this? And hopefully that will resonate. That will resonate. I mean, we're many people, we're many Canadians, so I'm sure that it will resonate with a group. So yeah, just be talking about your why in a way that will resonate with people.
I so agree with that. And I love that, even when we like to reveal your own values and your own views on things, because, people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. So if people like you and get to know you, and again, this idea of no one's going to give money to a name of a business, but they're going to give to Lorena, they're going to give to Alex, they're going to give to Paula, people supporting people. So if your face is never on your social media feed, and women entrepreneurs tend to hide a lot behind their logos and their products, but we need to see your face, because that's what people are going to get to know. That's how they'll get to know you.
Absolutely. That human connection is so important, especially through social media.
All right. So any other questions? I see a question about a biz book. I'll get to that in a second, Susan. Good question. Any questions for Zulany before we wrap up today? This has been such a great session. I've learned so much. If I've missed it, please do unmute yourself. You can ask if I have missed your question in the chat somehow. If not, and you just want to put it into the chat. Yeah, someone's asked me privately for Zulany's email address, which is on the screen. So right now, Zulany.Pacheco@Equivesto.com.
Correct.
It's right there if you want to reach out to her for the marketing aspect. She is a wealth of knowledge. And so if not, I think that you've given people a lot to digest, and this is an awesome opportunity in the fundraising plan. If we can look at our business as we're constantly fundraising, this is a really great strategy. And it might be one of many that we use, but it exists out there, and I've seen it work. I've seen it work in various platforms. So kudos to you, Zulany, and to your team for creating a new and innovative way to engage entrepreneurs. While we're just wrapping up here, and thank you, Zulany, for sure. I would like to just point your attention to the fact there are a lot of different workshops coming up as well. And I did earlier post a couple of times a link to what is coming up at WeCan. As well, if anybody would like a copy of the notes today the recording, please do contact me by my email address, which I'll put one more time into the chat. But seeing no further questions at this point, we will wrap up for today. I know it's a busy day for everyone. Thank you, Zulany, one more time. Thank you to all of you for showing up, for your excellent questions, and good luck. We look forward to seeing you at the next WeCan workshop. I should mention we have one tomorrow. So if you just need some more group therapy, if we want to call it that, you just want to connect with women. Tomorrow we have Pitching with Power with Orlena Kane at 10 a.m. And we will as well be launching a new coaching program tomorrow during that session. So you don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for everyone. And have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care.
Bye.